On that day, Xuan-Er and Kai Lin's fight had finally come to an end. The intensity of their fight had stunned all the elders, but to many of the students, what left the deepest impression on them today was Xiao Yan's arrogance and domineering attitude. This shock was enough to make them remember it for a long time. The result of the two of them's match was that Xuan-Er had a slight advantage and won. Both of their strengths were equally matched, and in the end, they only relied on different techniques to make a difference. This result also made everyone sigh with emotion. Mu Yiyue had been standing below the stage all along. When Xiao Yan displayed his overbearing side, she did not stand out either. Clearly, she admired the latter's performance. In her eyes, it was as if she saw the first time she came to the academy. Even though his strength was weak, he still became the enemy of all the students and gave up everything to protect her, Mu Yuyang. The grand competition ended under the complex gazes of all the students with different feelings. Mu Yiyue finally entered Realm and Valley as she had wished. This time, it had been about 2 years since Xiao Yan and Bai Yangchao entered the Realm and Valley. However, with the former's talent and strength, in less than 2 years, the Realm and Valley would once again raise her fame. Just like Mu Yuyang a few years ago, Zhou Buyi had left early on. Under the lead of the Xiao Ao, he quietly entered Realm and Valley and took care of Zhou Xingyue, who had just woken up. Although the latter was extremely surprised at where she was, when she saw that Zhou Buyi was also there, she dispelled all of her worries and carelessly drank a large mouthful of nourishing medicine. When Xiao Yan returned, it was already early in the morning of the second day. After leaving the punishment department, he went to find Su Ziyang. After which, he met the Qi and Bai elders and told them his thoughts. Going to the Mingan divine domain was already an urgent matter. Regarding the fact that Xiao Yan had advanced to the emperor cultivation in such a short period of time, none of them had expected it. In addition to being shocked, they also discussed a lot with him. After getting the promise that they would secretly take care of Xuan-Er, Kai Lin and the others, Xiao Yan finally left with a peace of mind. Xiao Yan didn't intend to bring Xuan-Er and Kai Lin to the Mingan divine domain. After all, the journey was long and dangerous. Although the two girls were very powerful, Xiao Yan didn't have the confidence to protect himself in the face of a new realm, let alone the two girls who only had the strength of Monarch Emperor. Furthermore, he needed to collect a series of materials that could be used to refine the bodies of the people in the Shaman Yin Meridian. 5 years of time couldn't be wasted in a short period of time. Xiao Yan searched for a long time in the spirit pavilion of the Yunluo Academy before he finally found nearly 10 types of medicinal ingredients needed to refine a body. There was still a huge gap between this and nearly 100 types of medicinal ingredients. During this trip to the Mingan divine domain, not only did he need to find a way to recover the 1,000 Leaves ancient monarch fire, he also needed to find these medicinal ingredients. Using the dragon soul bone, one could only enter the illusory spirit space in the star domain. Where could one enter and where could one come out from? This also meant that Xiao Yan had to return to the star domain in these 5 years. Xiao Yan wasn't too worried about the complicated herbs needed to refine the body. The climate of the Mingan divine domain was quite magical. The alternating hot and cold was very obvious. It was very conducive to the growth of herbs. According to the rumors, this kind of unique climate was one of the necessary conditions for the birth of a supreme cultivation technique, the Yin and Yang scroll. Zhou Xingyu's small face was full of smiles when she saw Xiao Yan. She had learned from Zhou Buyi that Xiao Yan had saved her from the wind erosion. This great kindness made her feel a sense of familiarity towards this seemingly lecherous fellow in front of her. Big brother Xiao Yan, you are so good. No wonder Wu Shaoqi likes you. As soon as the words left his mouth, the smile on Xiao Yan's face instantly froze. He felt Kai Lin and Xuan-Er's gaze on him and could not help but shiver. Zhou Buyi stood by the side with his eyes lowered. His expression was calm and his eyes were looking at Xiao Yan. He ignored Xiao Yan's restless look. All right, you have recovered as well. Leave now. Xiao Yan sighed helplessly. He didn't hesitate to send her away. This little girl had no words to hide. If she continued to stay like this, who knew what kind of trouble she would cause? Big brother Xiao Yan, you are so outstanding. It is normal for you to have a few women. My father has more than a dozen concubines. My brother has several engagement agreements. I'm just waiting for this time to go back and marry all of them. Io, brother, why did you hit me? Before she left, Zhou Xingyue still couldn't stop thinking about it. She turned to Xiao Yan and said earnestly. The words she said made Xiao Yan want to cry, but no tears came out. Zhou Bai's face was full of black lines. He couldn't help but hit Zhou Xingyu's head. He gritted his teeth and said, I won't go back. Hurry up and leave. Xiao Yan felt cold sweat running down his back. He urged the Xiao Ao to take them away. He could not stand Zhou Xingyue anymore. He started to curse in his heart why he wanted to save her. She was totally a troublemaker. Only when the Xiao Ao's and Zhou Bai's figures disappeared did Xiao Yan finally heave a sigh of relief. He felt much more relaxed. Mr. Xiao Yan. Xu En'er's soft voice was suddenly transmitted from behind. Xiao Yan's nerves, which had just relaxed, immediately tensed. He secretly felt that it was not good. You have to be honest when you go to Mingan Divine Domain. Xu En'er looked at Xiao Yan with a bitter gaze, like a little girl who did not get any candy. Her expression was delicate and pitiful. If you dare to be dishonest, I will let you have a long memory. Kai Lin's eyes were cold as she stared at Xiao Yan. It was obvious that Zhou Xingyu's unintentional words were deeply engraved in their hearts. Don't worry. Xiao Yan could only smile bitterly and guarantee repeatedly. A woman's temperament was really hard to figure out. He was thinking about how he should survive in Mingan Divine Domain, how he should proceed with each step, and what he needed to pay attention to. They were actually worried about whether he would get into trouble. No matter what, you have to be safe and sound. You are here, not alone. You have family, wife, do you know? Don't be as hot-blooded and impulsive as you were in fighting Qi Continent. Xu En'er's words changed. She quickly stepped forward and held Xiao Yan's hand. Her voice was choked with sobs. Also, don't rashly follow people and run away. Kai Lin lightly snorted. Her red lips parted slightly. She clearly remembered that back then, Xiao Yan and Yao Lao, who were merely Do Shi, had run over to the Snake People's territory to snatch the Green Lotus Core Flame. If it was not for her sudden accident that time, this fellow would have died a long time ago. Relax, everyone is an adult. It is also not possible for them to be as impulsive as when they were young. Xiao Yan laughed. His gaze was somewhat uncertain, causing the Xiao Ao, who had just come out of the illusory spirit space, to involuntarily twitch his mouth. His performance when he had advanced to the Emperor cultivation in the Origin Qi space could not be called impulsive. That's good. You must be safe. Xu En'er nodded her head, and a relieved smile appeared on her pretty face. Xiao Ao, come with me. You and father must take care of yourselves. Xiao Yan sighed. Farewell was always sad. Even he wasn't spared from it. The next day, Xiao Yan quietly left. He did not say goodbye to Ji Yuan and the others. It was better not to disturb their minds while they were focusing on their cultivation. He has left. Yes, he has left. The legendary geniuses of Realm and Valley have all left this time. Don't be so sad. They are dragons, but they have just jumped out of the deep sea. The sky is where they can display their abilities. Their legends have only just been displayed in the great world. There are also many geniuses in Mingan Divine Domain. I wonder what kind of waves Xiao Yan will cause if he goes there. Below the Heaven Pillar Peak, many elders were discussing in low voices. They were filled with mixed emotions. 1-inch Su. Under the clear blue sky, a ray of golden light rushed over from afar. In an instant, it was almost within reach. The golden light paused for a moment on the spot, then it fell down towards the mountains below. The golden light dispersed and revealed Xiao Yan's figure. Ever since he left Yunluo Academy 2 days ago, Xiao Yan had been rushing without stopping. He had been traveling without saying a word. The tiring journey during these 2 days had also helped him recover from his initial reluctance to part with the journey. He walked through the deep mountains and valleys that were filled with dense trees. Xiao Yan took the opportunity to recover his origin qi. The Xiao Ao also came out of his body and followed beside him. After leaving the Yunluo Academy, which was filled with people, the latter did not need to avoid arousing suspicion. The capital of chaos where the Yunluo Academy was located in the east of the Star Domain. If one wanted to reach the Mingan Divine Domain, they would have to cross the entire Star Domain. If they relied solely on their feet to travel, they would have to cross the entire Star Domain. No one knew how many years it would take. Fortunately, almost every city in the Star Domain had the transportation array. If they used it properly, it would only take them more than 3 months to reach the border of the Star Domain. The place he was currently at was called Dongchuan Prefecture, adjacent to capital of Chaos and Dongchuan City. With the transportation array there, he could cross the distance of one prefecture and head straight to the next prefecture. The place where Xiao Yan was currently walking was about 2 days away from Dongchuan City. After resting for a moment, Xiao Yan's body flashed and he soared into the sky. After confirming his direction, he flew out. A few vigorous origin chis flowed out of his body, connecting with the wind in the air, and using the least amount of energy to travel. Compared to the awkward situation when he could only walk in forest domain, he had a qualitative breakthrough now. He could cross a city in about an hour, and his speed had greatly improved. The journey was safe and sound. Xiao Yan successfully left Dongchuan Prefecture from the transportation array in Dongchuan City and headed to the next prefecture. The Thundercloud Prefecture was known as the place where the Thundercloud clan, which had replaced the 4 families, was located. However, the ugly incident that happened a few years ago had turned this incident into a joke among the people of the Starfield. It was Btth2 who had entered the important land of the Thundercloud clan with his own strength and forcefully seized the most precious treasure of the Thundercloud clan, the great profound strong wind thunder. Although the Thundercloud clan had faced many problems at that time, on one hand, they had to keep an eye on the Xiao clan, a bug that was still alive and kicking. On the other hand, they had to gather their elite forces and enter the capital of Chaos. When Black Nether Emperor changed the rules of the capital of Chaos, they would be able to get a piece of the pie, which had greatly reduced the overall strength of the clan. They had never thought that the backyard would catch fire, and Btth would sneak attack them. They had become a laughingstock. After that, the furious Thundercloud clan naturally chased after Btth in the entire domain. However, the latter had openly come to the capital of Chaos and fought with Black Nether Emperor and the others who had invaded the Yunluo Academy. When he left, he was hunted down by a few experts of the Thundercloud clan, but he killed them instead. After that, there was no news of him, and no one knew where he had gone. The moment Xiao Yan stepped into the Lei-Yin Prefecture, he had been on high alert. Previously in the capital of Chaos, the people of the Thundercloud clan had spared no effort in searching for him. Now that he had gone deep into the enemy's nest, it was better for him to leave immediately. Thundercloud City was like an ancient and majestic beast standing on a boundless plain. The city walls were pitch black and emitted an aura that made one's skin hurt. It was as if it contained lightning and ancient chi, causing one to feel reverence. The guards at the entrance were all mighty and majestic. They wore thick and heavy armor, and the long spears they held were actually spirit weapons. The tip of the spear was surging with spiritual light, and there was naturally a fiendish aura flowing around it. The people who entered the city consciously lined up, waiting for the guards to inspect them. Xiao Yan furrowed his brows slightly. He had just arrived from the prefecture of the previous prefecture, and was now outside the city. If he wanted to enter the Thundercloud City, he would have to enter the city. He let out a light sigh. Xiao Yan touched his face with his hand. When his palm landed on the ground, it had changed into a new face. At the same time, his chi changed. At a glance, he looked no different from an ordinary person. He looked extremely normal. After mixing in the crowd, Xiao Yan slowly walked toward the city gate. On the city wall above the city gate, there were 3 huge words carved into it. Thundercloud City, as if it had been lit up by the light of the ancient times, was shining with a soul-stirring light. This imposing manner was worthy of the name of the 4 great families. As they slowly advanced, a commotion suddenly broke out at the city gate. The group also halted their advance. In the next moment, countless joyous voices resounded. As the crowd moved, they blocked the city gate. Xiao Yan was startled. His eyes focused as he looked towards the direction of the city gate. At that spot, 2 amiable-looking old men had appeared out of nowhere. The old man was dressed in a white robe and had a white beard. He looked like a celestial being. Dozens of guards stood behind the 2 of them with respectful expressions on their faces. Clearly, they had great respect for the old man. I never thought that my luck would be so good today. I encountered an elder from the Thundercloud clan who taught me cultivation techniques. If I can catch their attention, I can save at least a few decades of hard work. Ahaha, it's still the cultivation elder and the growth elder. These 2 elders have the best heart among all the cultivation elders of Thundercloud clan. If their performance is a little more miserable, perhaps both of them will show their kindness and accept them as their disciples. It's all because the great profound strong wind thunder was stolen that they lost their face. That's why these elders came out at random times to teach and bribe people. Otherwise, how could they fight over the 4 big families? Listening to the whispers of the surrounding people, some were excited, some were disdainful, and some were discussing animatedly. It was very lively. However, Xiao Yan's brows furrowed even more. His eyes were filled with golden light as he stared at the 2 smiling elders in front of him. His heart was filled with anxiety. If the sun set, the transportation array in every city would be temporarily closed. This was the rule of the star domain. Even the ancient city of Thundercloud City had to abide by it. It was now evening. If this matter was blocked by the sun, they could only wait until tomorrow. If the night dragged on, there would be many dreams, and Xiao Yan wished he could leave the Thundercloud Prefecture at once. I'm sorry everyone, but the 2 of us have delayed you for a while. If anyone here is fated to be with us, we will naturally teach him the cultivation technique of the Thundercloud clan and the secret skill. I hope everyone can bear the responsibility. An old man with a handsome face bowed slightly to the crowd and said in a bold tone, "Great Master Shu, you are too polite. It is our good fortune to meet you." Someone in front of them spoke in a hurry, full of fear and trepidation. There was a look of joy on his face. Well said, well said. Then use the old method. Whoever has the strongest lightning attribute aura in their body will be taught the cultivation method this time. An elder behind the slender elder had a kind look on his face. He took a step forward and was as thin as a log. A purple bead appeared in his palm. Lightning surged on the bead, and it was mysterious and unfathomable. Xiao Yan's gaze became slightly focused as he stared at the purple pearl in the old man's hand. For some reason, he could feel that the 3,000 lightning monarch flames in his body had some kind of strange movement. The 2 elders were walking slowly in the crowd. The beads in their hands were waving in front of each of their chests, but they didn't change at all. This made many people who were filled with joy look gloomy. Their indignant eyes followed the movement of the beads, wanting to see who would win the favor of the 2 elders. Buzz. Suddenly, the purple pearl emitted a slight tremble. The face of the growing old man and the tall old man revealed joy. They immediately looked at the young man in front of them, who had his head lowered. Just as they were about to speak, the latter suddenly laughed softly. His hand was extended in a lightning-like manner. In an instant, it penetrated the chest of the long old man and blood splashed 3 feet. This sudden change shocked everyone. It also caused Xiao Yan to be stunned. His sharp eyes looked at the young man. When he saw the face of the young man, his heart was immediately filled with shock. Xiao Tianyi, why is he here? 0 inches, ah! After a moment of silence, a sharp cry instantly rang out in the crowd. The long and slender white robe was stained with blood, and the white beard was trembling uncontrollably. In the bloody hole in his chest, blood was gushing out like a fountain. His body fell to the ground with a loud bang, and the life in his eyes was flowing away. It was obvious that he could not live anymore. Those who offend the thunderclouds will be killed without mercy. The group of guards at the back also reacted. Although they were caught unprepared, they were also well trained. Immediately, they moved, and in an instant, nearly 100 people rushed out from the city gate, surrounding the hundreds of people outside the city layer by layer. Someone even sounded the alarm, and all of a sudden, the alarm in the city sounded, and the entire city immediately entered a state of alert. Elder Cheng had already sensed the reaction of the long and slender old man the moment he fell to the ground. He let out a furious cry and waved his sleeve violently, barely blocking Xiao Tianyi's killing intent. He hurriedly stepped to the side and stared at the former in a dense manner. The crowd that was originally surrounding Xiao Tianyi also avoided him as if they were avoiding a plague. Their shocked gazes were all focused on the former. This was the headquarters of Thundercloud Clan. Who exactly was this person that dared to kill someone here? The terrified eyes of the surrounding people seemed to enjoy it very much. Xiao Tianyi threw away the bamboo hat on his head and revealed a cold smile on his face. His sword-shaped eyebrows were filled with killing intent. It was as if there was an ice-cold killing intent that could not be melted, causing people to feel intimidated when they looked at him. You! Seeing Xiao Tianyi's face, the elder was stunned for a moment. Then, as if he had thought of something, he roared furiously. Capture him! He is the traitor who stole the treasure of our clan. Boom! Before he finished his words, Xiao Tianyi had already dashed forward. His aura was like a golden thunderbolt that exploded out. In an instant, many people in the surroundings were thrown away. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived in front of Elder Cheng. His 5 fingers were like claws as they were about to pierce through the latter's chest. Elder Cheng's expression suddenly changed. His expression was shocked. The moment Xiao Tianyi attacked, he felt that he had been locked down by the former's aura. Even if he retreated, he would not be able to escape this fatal attack. Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes. He took the opportunity to move towards the city gate. Many guards were attracted by Xiao Tianyi, and there were fewer people surrounding him. Swoosh! All of a sudden, a gentle breeze swept past Xiao Yan's back. In the next moment, a figure that was like a thunderbolt suddenly arrived. The moment before Xiao Tianyi's 5 fingers stabbed into the elder, the figure stretched out his hand and pulled the elder away, narrowly brushing past Xiao Tianyi's palm. Xiao Tianyi's eyes were cold and his black hair was thick. He was dressed in a tattered gray shirt, looking like a wandering vigilante. At this moment, the strike that he was sure to hit had been broken. He could not help but snort and look forward. In front of him, a middle-aged man in a blue robe slowly appeared. The middle-aged man was plump, had a protruding forehead, and a straight back. He had a calm expression, and his gait was imposing. Clearly, he was a big shot of the Thundercloud clan. "Sixth Master, I can't believe you have alarmed you." The old man stood in the distance, still in a state of shock. When he saw the middle-aged man in a blue robe, he couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. "Young man, how dare you? Not only did you steal the great profound strong wind thunder from my Thundercloud clan, you even dared to come here." The middle-aged man looked at Xiao Tianyi with an expression on his face and suddenly sneered. "This isn't the Xiao clan. You can come and go as you please. However, since you have come, don't even think about leaving. Leave the great profound strong wind thunder behind." As he spoke, an imposing aura that made everyone tremble suddenly emerged from his body. It was as powerful as a sword and blade. "You want me to stay behind? What a joke. Do you believe me? Even if these people are all dead, I can still smack my butt and leave safely." Xiao Tianyi crossed his arms over his chest and stood there. A wild aura was flowing around his body. He was wild and unruly like a wild tiger. He looked up at the sky and laughed with disdain. "Let's talk about it again. I naturally have something to attend to when I come here. How can I just leave like this?" Xiao Tianyi looked at the blue-robed middle-aged man with a cold smile. His body was as straight as a dragon, and golden lightning was circling around his body. He was like a thunder god, attracting everyone's attention. "Sir, can we leave first?" As soon as Xiao Tianyi finished speaking, a pedestrian who could not withstand the majestic chi of these 2 men spoke. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper, trembling under the chi of these 2 men. "Bring them into the city. Not a single one of them is allowed to leave. Wait until we capture this thief, then we'll let them go." The middle-aged man's ice-cold gaze swept through everyone as he coldly shouted. "Shua! Shua!" Nearly 100 spears that flashed with cold light pointed at the crowd. A murderous aura enveloped the entire city gate. In the city, the alarm was still ringing loudly. Numerous heaven-shaking auras soared into the sky from the deepest part of the city, rushing down rapidly. Xiao Yan was in the crowd, and he could no longer calm down. The situation was getting more and more intense. At that time, if a great figure from the Thundercloud clan appeared, it would be very easy for him to see through Xiao Yan's true colors. At that time, a fierce battle would be inevitable. In that case, only a more chaotic scene could allow him to escape. Glancing at the Thundercloud city, Xiao Tianyi smiled lightly. A trace of coldness flashed in the depths of his eyes. His body shook violently, and a majestic killing intent roared out. It was as if it had materialized, and it actually shattered the spirit weapon spears held by all the guards. The remaining force didn't reduce at all, and it rushed into the crowd. In an instant, hundreds of people were sent flying backwards while screaming. The city gate was in chaos for a moment. "Let's go!" Xiao Yan took advantage of the situation and flew towards the city gate. The moment he got close to the city gate, he suddenly exerted force on his waist. Like the flickering of stars, he instantly entered the heavily guarded Thundercloud city. With a few leaps, he disappeared into the layers of buildings. Swoosh! Xiao Tianyi's eyes were like sharp swords. He sensed Xiao Yan's movement the moment he moved. After a slight hesitation, he let out a wild roar and was about to chase after him. "Take down that evil bastard!" Just as he was about to move, several long roars sounded from all directions. Numerous experts from the Thundercloud clan moved out one after another, but they were only Emperor cultivation warriors. There were dozens of them. Of course, as a family that wanted to replace the Shao clan and become one of the 4 great families, this was just the surface strength of the family. If there was a momentary stalemate, many of the seniors of the Thundercloud clan would move out. Some of them were even stronger. "Leave the great profound strong wind thunder behind, and I can let you die a quick death." The middle-aged man who was called Sixth Master had a cold look in his eyes. With a furious roar, he charged towards Btth2. He did not hold back any of his aura, causing the ground to tremble. A sharp chi spread out, instantly causing the chi and blood of many weaker people to fluctuate. After which, they fainted. For the sake of the great profound strong wind thunder, the life and death of these people were no longer in their eyes. "I want to leave. Who can stay behind?" A cold glint suddenly surged in Btth's eyes. His fist struck out, and it seemed as if the space itself had collapsed. Boundless lightning coiled around his fist as he faced the middle-aged man's attack with a loud bang. Buzz! Btth withdrew his fist as soon as it was released. His body flashed in a ghostly manner, causing the middle-aged man to miss his attack. Taking advantage of the moment when the latter stood up, Btth appeared behind the middle-aged man as if he had penetrated through space. Without hesitation, he kicked down with a force of thousands of kilograms, directly kicking the latter into the ground. As the ground collapsed, a black deep pit appeared. "Ha ha 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 ha! The trash from the Thundercloud clan can't even withstand a single blow." "I'll go!" Btth's mocking laughter echoed in the void. Under the gazes of everyone present, his figure strangely disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the Thundercloud City. In Thundercloud City, it was prosperous. There was also a huge Thundercloud symbol that symbolized the Thundercloud clan standing in the middle of the city. At a glance, it was a majestic sight, and everything in sight was bustling. People were rubbing their shoulders. As the alarm kept sounding, groups of elite soldiers from the Thundercloud clan rushed over from all directions of the city, maintaining the order of the city in an orderly manner. "Xiaoyan, you actually came here." Killing intent surfaced in Btth's eyes. The figure of Xiaoyan just now surfaced in his mind. His eyesight was extraordinary. The moment he sensed the monarch flame fluctuation within Xiaoyan's body, he could clearly see Xiaoyan's true appearance. "Originally, I wanted to go to Capital of Chaos to find you. Since you have come to seek death, I will fulfill your wish." Btth appeared to be crazy. His white teeth flashed with a cold glint. Killing intent was revealed in his eyes. His body was so fast that he charged in the direction where Xiaoyan had left in the blink of an eye. Damn it, I was discovered. Xiaoyan's figure was like a shooting star, streaking across the sky above Thundercloud City. Powerful chi came from all directions of the city. The killing intent behind him was astonishing, but the killing intent behind this chi was even more terrifying. It was as if a blade of killing had emerged from the depths of hell, cutting through the sky and eroding it. He became more and more curious about Btth's background. He had just advanced to the Emperor cultivation after experiencing a near-death experience, and Btth's speed of growth was even more astonishing. He wasn't any weaker than him. "Junior, come and die." All of a sudden, the void in front of them shattered. A giant hand shrouded in black flames suddenly extended from within, its 5 fingers like mountains. The lines on its palm were like mysterious diagrams of mountains and rivers, pressing down on Xiaoyan. At the same time, another giant finger stretched out from the void, crushing the heaven and earth. It crushed the void and headed straight for Btth. The huge finger was filled with killing intent and a dense aura. Obviously, it was the big shot of Thundercloud clan who attacked. "You want to suppress me with just a finger? Cripple me." Btth's advance was blocked. He let out a furious roar. His eyes were filled with blood, and he took a step forward like a heavenly general that could move mountains and move mountains. He held his hands together and firmly trapped the huge finger. The lightning on the surface of his body surged wildly, and it resisted the killing intent that suffused the enormous finger. With Btth's angry shout, his anger soared to the sky. A loud sound that shook the sky was heard. The giant finger was actually broken. How dare you injure my finger? Even if a saint comes today, I won't be able to save you." A gloomy and furious cry was emitted from the empty air. The sonic boom continued. Xiao Tianyi could not help but frown. The blood within his body boiled. He parted his mouth and laughed coldly. The origin chi in his hand surged and turned this broken finger into ashes. His eyes turned and looked at Xiao Yan in front of him. His expression became even more solemn. The large hand, which covered the sky, was actually shaken a little as the crimson gold flame lingered in the sky. The golden light around Xiao Yan's body soared. He forcefully blocked the attack of the large hand. Buzz! Golden light surged from his back, and a chain that seemed to connect the heaven and earth shot out from the golden light. The golden chain cut through the void and rushed towards the palm of the giant hand. For a moment, the giant hand was forced to retreat. Although the strange patterns were filled with black flames, they were quickly devoured by the golden light and couldn't hurt Xiao Yan at all. Ha! Xiao Yan's joints were like the crisp sound of a dragon. His eyes were glowing with golden light. His 5 fingers formed a fist and he threw a punch into the sky. Almost at the moment when Xiao Tianyi's eyes swept over, Xiao Yan pierced through the giant hand. The golden light carried him and soared into the sky. Without any hesitation, he rushed towards the center of Thundercloud City. He wanted to leave this place before the transportation array of Thundercloud City closed. "Get out of my way!" Looking at Xiao Yan's disappearing figure, Xiao Tianyi's fury soared to the sky. Killing intent rose from his body, like a rain of blood, sweeping across the sky, causing the origin chi giant hand that had just stretched out from the void to explode. Along with the aftershock, Xiao Tianyi's figure flashed and followed Xiao Yan. Damn it! Damn it! The attack was broken by Xiao Tianyi twice in a row. This big shot of Thundercloud Clan flew into a rage. His fury spread across the entire Thundercloud City, causing the entire world to tremble. The expression of the blue-robed middle-aged man who had just arrived changed. He looked at the departing Xiao Tianyi in disbelief. How strong was this guy? How could he escape from the hands of the Supreme Elder of Thundercloud Clan? Although these two attacks were separated by layers of spatial zones, the strength of a heavenly sovereign-level warrior was comparable to an ordinary monarch cultivation warrior even with a trace of the origin chi. These two were merely emperor cultivation warriors, but they were able to leave so easily. Seal the Thundercloud City, seal the 4 city gates. All transportation array in the city will be shut down immediately, no one is allowed to leave. The middle-aged man made a prompt decision. His voice was like a thunderclap that resounded in the sky above the Thundercloud City. He gave the order to seal off the city. He was the 6th brother of the current patriarch of Thundercloud Clan. Although his strength was relatively weak, he still held a high position in the family. In a large family that used their bloodline as the core, as a direct blood relative, he was in charge of many things in the Thundercloud Clan. That kid behind us is the traitor who stole the great profound strong wind thunder of the Thundercloud Clan? As soon as his voice faded, a furious voice suddenly resounded in Lei Yunming's mind. The latter was slightly startled, then he turned to a spot in the void and said respectfully, replying to the Supreme Elder, "It's that person." What an arrogant kid, good. Good. The clan chief had no time to care about this matter. Then I'll take action, erase this humiliation for my clan. The cold laughter continued to echo out like thunder. Upon hearing this, Lei Yunming was greatly alarmed. He hurriedly sent a voice transmission and said, "Supreme Elder, you can't do that. Lord Patriarch has instructed that all of you should focus on your cultivation. You must understand that thing. The great profound strong wind thunder is also an essential part of comprehending that thing. If I don't act now, this Thundercloud City will be torn apart by this traitor." The voice in the void was cold. In the next moment, a beam of light shot up from somewhere in the Thundercloud City. After pondering for a moment, it rushed towards a certain direction. Wherever the beam of light passed, the space shattered and the void trembled. It was as if a heavenly god was patrolling the place. Its chi was shocking. I saw it. Xiao Yan's body was like a shooting star. In an instant, he had passed through half of the Thundercloud City. His sharp eyes swept across the area below, and in an instant, he saw the largest transportation array in the center of the city. However, at this moment, everyone had already dispersed outside the formation. A few guards were about to seal off the transportation array. HMPH. Xiao Yan's eyes were cold. He flicked his 5 fingers and dozens of crimson gold flames shot out without hesitation. They quietly cut through the space and pierced through the backs of these guards. Ka! Sensing the increasingly violent qi behind him, Xiao Yan gritted his teeth. He had no time to pay attention to Xiao Tianyé's pursuit. He rushed madly towards the transportation array. In the distance, a killing intent that made his heart palpitate rushed over. Obviously, it was the attack of a big shot from the Thundercloud clan. Bang! The moment before Xiao Yan stepped into the transportation array, a beam of light suddenly appeared in front of him, blocking his path. Xiao Yan was startled and stopped in his tracks. His brows were knitted tightly as he looked at the figure that had appeared in front of him. Swoosh! In the next moment, Xiao Tianyi rushed over with a cold expression. His sword-like eyes immediately looked at the figure in front of Xiao Yan. For the first time, there was a serious expression on his face. 2 inches, who are you? The person who appeared in front of Xiao Yan was an old man with golden hair and beard. The old man was filled with a murderous aura, as if he had just walked out from a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. He was wearing a red robe, and just by standing in front of him, he gave off an indescribable feeling of fierceness. The old man looked at Xiao Yan, and his voice was as cold as the ice of the netherworld. Xiao Yan's gaze sharpened. His majestic soul force probed the old man, and he quickly estimated the old man's strength in his heart. Just as he was about to speak, Xiao Tianyi, who was standing behind him, coldly snorted and said, "He's only a monarch cultivation. I'll just kill him." As his voice faded, a soft thunderclap sounded by his ears. In the next moment, Xiao Tianyi had already flashed past Xiao Yan's side. His fist was like a dragon. The space buzzed as it smashed towards the old man's face without any hesitation. The force of this punch was so great that even an Emperor cultivation warrior would be torn into pieces if he was hit by it. This junior is too arrogant. A fierce killing intent flashed across the old man's eyes. He suddenly attacked. The origin chi chain wrapped around his arm. With a slight movement of his 5 fingers, Xiao Tianyé's punch was firmly grasped, preventing him from moving. Great profound strong wind thunder, I will personally take it out from your body. The old man let out a cold laugh. He was as steady as a rock. No matter how much Xiao Tianyi struggled, he couldn't escape. As he spoke, his other hand reached out like a ghost, about to break through Xiao Tianyé's chest. Kai! All of a sudden, a rushing wind sound was heard. Amidst the howling wind sound, a terrifying flame roar entered his ears. The old man's facial expression couldn't help but change. He had no choice but to let go of the 5 fingers that were tightly gripping Xiao Tianyé's fist. Then, he took a step back and avoided the huge ruler that was sweeping towards him. Xiao Yan's expression was cold. He moved his right hand. The blue flame ruler in his hand seemed to have eyes as it once again smashed towards the old man. The crimson gold flame on the surface of the ruler surged. Even the origin chi of the monarch cultivation sovereign was unable to defend against it. This was the great power of the monarch flame. Buzz! The face of the old man from the Thundercloud clan was dark and cold. He waved his sleeve. It was as though a wild wind had been poured into his sleeve. His soft sleeve instantly became extremely hard. It collided with the roaring blue flame ruler, emitting a metal clanging sound that shook the sky. The sound wave spread out, causing some of the surrounding buildings to be filled with invisible cracks. Oh! Xiao Yan's chest tightened. The golden blood in his body boiled, and he couldn't help but retreat in the air. After this attack, he had roughly estimated the old man's strength. He was definitely at the peak of the monarch cultivation, and should belong to a senior elder of the Thundercloud clan. His strength was astonishing. Has the Thundercloud clan fallen into such dire straits? How dare an ant like this break into the holy city? Fury flickered in the elder's eyes. He strode forward and his 5 fingers were like 5 sharp swords that were about to pierce through Xiao Yan's chest. Old thing, try this. Xiao Tianyé's furious voice resounded. In the next moment, like the roar of a lightning dragon, a sudden clap of thunder exploded and struck the old man's back. Facing Xiao Tianyé's furious attack, the old man didn't dare to be careless. He could only temporarily turn around and slap out with his palm, crushing the lightning. Then, he looked at Xiao Tianyi. When he saw the old man's face, his eyelids couldn't help but twitch. Evil creature, you actually refined the great profound strong wind thunder. The old man turned pale with fright. Then, his face turned gloomy, as if it could drip water. His eyes turned red, and he gritted his teeth. Although the great profound strong wind thunder was not as mysterious and powerful as the monarch flame, it was still a variant that belonged to the heaven and earth. It was the heavenly lightning. It was said that every heavenly lightning was formed from the blood essence of an ancient supreme being. It was rumored that there was a certain amount of pressure coming from it. The Thundercloud clan had obtained the great profound strong wind thunder. It had only been 100 years, but none of the experts were able to resonate with it and refine it. Xiao Tianyi had only taken a few years to fully master it. At this moment, Xiao Tianyi's entire body was covered by lightning. He was like the god of thunder who was walking in the void. Every movement of his was filled with lightning. His black hair stood up straight, and his cold eyes were overflowing with killing intent. There was no emotion in his eyes. The killing intent that was revealed caused the old man to be slightly shocked. Ka! Xiao Tianyi raised his head and roared furiously. He threw out his right fist, causing the void to tremble. A bolt of lightning that was as thick as an arm was wreaking havoc in the void. It was a frightening force that caused many experts of Thundercloud clan to cry out in alarm and dodge the attack. Most of them were cultivating lightning attribute cultivation techniques. If the origin chi in their bodies was triggered and became violent, what awaited them would be a fate worse than death. "I'm here. How can I allow you to be so arrogant?" The old man's beard and hair were wide open. The origin chi behind his back was soaring into the sky, forming a huge lightning bolt that was shining on the peak of a mountain. The lightning bolt was blood red in color, like a crescent moon or a sickle that broke the jade dome. It dyed the sky and the earth red. This was the phenomenon that had appeared behind everyone when they had broken through to the Emperor cultivation. It was ever-changing and mysterious. Boom! It was as if the old man was standing on top of the blood-red lightning. With a wave of his sleeve, astral winds raged violently, turning into an endless sea of lightning that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. The entire sky above Thundercloud City seemed to be covered by the blood-red lightning. A suffocating aura pressed down like a huge mountain, wanting to completely suppress Xiao Tianyi. Azure Dragon slaying firmament. All of a sudden, an extremely sharp killing intent soared up like a sharp sword that could cut through the sky. It actually broke through the sea of blood-red lightning. Like the roar of the Azure Dragon, it cut through the void, bringing with it a terrifying divine might. Taking advantage of the opportunity when the old man was facing Xiao Tianyi, Xiao Yan's golden qi and blood surged like a vast ocean as it struck down. Xiao Yan and Xiao Tianyi, one at the back and one at the front, launched their most powerful attack at the old man. The golden lightning in front of them rumbled, and the azure dragon behind them broke the sky. The two of them were evenly matched at this moment. The old man stood in the middle of the two, and when he suddenly sensed the holy aura that permeated from their bodies, his expression immediately changed. He immediately roared out, and endless streams of origin chi shot out from his body. They danced in the sky, and in front of him, they turned into an indestructible inner hidden art. Under the gazes of everyone in the city, Xiao Yan and Xiao Tianyi's attacks struck the old man's body. It was as if the blood-red lightning that filled the sky scattered, and the blood-red sea that filled the air dissipated in an instant. "Idiot, let's go!" Xiao Yan was sent flying away from the vigorous origin chi. There were traces of blood on the corner of his mouth. The attack of the holy arts seemed to have no effect at all. Immediately, he looked at Xiao Tianyi, who was also sent flying backwards. He let out a low shout and then rushed towards the transportation array. He held a very pure monarch crystal tightly in his hand. "Pooey!" Xiao Tianyi's eyes were cold. When he heard this, he sneered and said, "I am born with a divine body, and I am going to be invincible in this world. You piece of trash, you want to order me? Idiot!" Xiao Yan's face darkened, and he cursed in his heart. Was this kind of person who jumped out of a rock born with pride? Being so arrogant in the base camp of others, wasn't he just waiting to be slaughtered? Swoosh! All of a sudden, a buzzing sound that shook the sky was heard. In the next moment, a transparent longsword appeared in the sky, pointing straight at Xiao Tianyi. The sword chi swept across the sky in an invincible manner. Puff! At the last moment, Xiao Tianyi, who had been laughing coldly, finally noticed the hidden force in the sword. His facial expression changed, and he wanted to dodge it. However, the sword suddenly accelerated as if it had a mind of its own. In the nick of time, it cut off one of Xiao Tianyé's arms. In an instant, golden blood splashed in the sky.